Hey YouTube, it's Tia, and I had received a few requests to do a video talking about what does it feel like security-wise being a woman, being a minority, what's the deal in Italy. There are a lot of videos on is it safe to live in Japan, is it safe to live in whatever country, but none on Italy, so I'm going to do that for you guys. I guess the first thing I should say is Italy is a very different society than in the States. For example, like, people aren't basically walking around with guns, and for some reason, like, I don't know, there's not so many violent crimes in general. It's a completely different thing. That being said, I wouldn't think that Italy is dangerous, but I've had some pretty scary experiences, and there are some things you should look out for if you're not Italian. For example, the first scary thing to happen to me in Italy was last year. I got robbed. Basically what happened was I was staying at Enrico's for the weekend, and I had bought one of those clothes dryers. In Italy they don't use like machine dryers, but they use this thing where you can hang on all your clothes on, and it's pretty big. I'm like 5'2", and holding it up, it takes up most of my body. And I was coming home from Enrico's house, and I had that thing and my suitcase with all my stuff in it. When I was getting into the metro, I took my wallet, which had my metro card in it, and did the thing to get into the metro, and I kissed Enrico goodbye. We didn't think, I especially didn't think he needed to come down there with me. He always asks, and that time I said, no, it's alright, you can go home. And so I put my wallet in the front of my suitcase. First mistake. And then I went down to the platform to wait for the metro. I didn't notice them at first. I mean, I saw them there, but when I was kissing Enrico goodbye, there were these two guys that were basically watching me, and they saw me put my wallet into my suitcase, and they saw that I had both of my hands full, and they saw me go down to the platform by myself. They came up to me, one of them came up to me actually, and pretended to ask me a question. And while he was asking me that fake question, his friend I was looking at him over here, and his friend went into my suitcase over there and took my wallet out of my suitcase. And then he left. Both of them left. I did not even understand what happened when he and his friend ran out of the metro. I was like, okay. And like 2 minutes later, a guy that was there, an old guy, was like, oh, il tuo portafolio. At the time, I didn't know that portafolio meant wallet. So I'm just sitting there like, what? What are you saying? I don't know what you're saying. And finally he like says portafolio, and he points to my suitcase, and I look at my suitcase and I see that the place where my wallet is open and my wallet is gone. And I like completely freak out, like, what the hell am I gonna do? Oh my god, somebody just stole my wallet. I've been robbed. Like, there were so many things wrong with this situation. In my wallet I had not only my credit cards and debit cards and 50 euros in cash, but I also had my passport in my wallet. There's a time where I didn't have my permesso yet, so I kept carrying my passport around as identification. I saw that they had thrown my wallet by the garbage, and luckily, they only took the money. They took the 50 euros cash, but all of my debit and credit cards were there, and most importantly, my passport was in there. I ended up being extremely lucky, but I was still like completely frazzled. I got on the metro as if I was going home, and then I called Enrico immediately, and I was like crying. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, I just got robbed. These two guys. And then like I got off at the next metro stop, and I told the controller there, I just got robbed in the last metro. And he was like, I'm very sorry, but this happens all the time. And I was like, okay, but you guys have security cameras in there, can't you use it to, I don't know, open a case or something? And he was like, no, basically. And so after that, I was still like really shaken up, and Enrico told me to just come back to his house, and he'd meet me at the bus stop, because at this point it was like 11 or something a.m. and the metros had stopped running, and I had to take the bus back to Enrico's house. And so I took the bus back to Enrico's house, and I made it with him, and in the end, like, everything was okay, but I was pretty traumatized by the whole thing. I had nightmares for weeks about it because I was really lucky. Like, they didn't pull out a weapon on me. I didn't even know it hit me. They didn't steal my passport or anything, but it just scared me to know that two people had watched me, saw that I was vulnerable, and followed me and tricked me like that. Like, they literally planned that out, and that was something I'd never even imagined happening to me, where I never realized that I am actually a small town girl until that day. I realized when I came to Milan, I'm not a city girl. I don't know anything. There were so many mistakes I made at that night. Putting my wallet in the suitcase, not keeping an eye on my suitcase at all times, being out that late at night alone. Like, I made so many mistakes, and that was the result of it. Do I think that me being black played a part of it? No. Do I think that me being a woman played a part of it? Yes. I don't think I had any makeup on. I was in like night clothes. I didn't look like a touristy American, so I don't know. I can't say that me being American had much to do with it, just more that I was a young girl by myself. And so they took advantage of that. Another scary moment, that was my first like really scary moment. My biggest scary moment though happened not long ago. It was about 2 months ago, and I was at Enrico's. We were gonna go to Fano the next day, and the week after go to America. So it was my last night in Milan of the summer, and I couldn't sleep. I was in Enrico's living room watching TV, and then I heard some screams coming from outside, and I was like, what is that? What? And he lives in a very he lives on a really long road in Milan called Via Padova. It's kind of famous for being, it's the hood of Milan. And so when I heard the screams, I thought probably the drunk people at the bar below him were just, you know, being drunk. So I go out to the balcony. I was on the phone with my friend to look, and then I look down and I see that it's a woman screaming, and there's a guy, he seemed visibly drunk, from the bar, like trying to press her up against the wall, and she was like trying to get away, screaming, and he was like holding her neck, and she's like, no, leave me alone. And like he tried to put her in a headlock, but she like slipped out because he was drunk. Then he would grab her, and it was like it was a struggle ensuing right before my eyes. And it was like 5 a.m., but there were still people on the streets, like people were walking by. Automatic response, I yelled at them. I was like, aiutale, which actually makes no sense. I wanted to say help her, literally, but in Italian it doesn't translate literally, and that makes no sense. And so everybody just looked up at me like I was crazy, and they walked by the woman. And in the end, like after 2 or 3 minutes of him assaulting her, or trying to assault her, she finally escaped, and she ran across the street, and he like drunkenly followed her, and eventually like she ran to the bus stop, which was way farther down the street, and he just got tired of it and came back and sat at the bar. That was the one that really affected me, because it's like, that could have been me. I mean, me or any of my friends. We are all in university, we all go out clubbing. Everybody's come home at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. I mean, for granted, luckily, I've never had to come home alone, but I don't know, the fact that people just walked by and let it happen and acted like there was nothing, that could have happened to me, and probably people would have done the same thing. When I explain the story to people, some people are like, well, she was probably a prostitute or something. And it's just like, really though, prostitute or not, she's still a human being, she's still a woman, and she's getting assaulted, and you're not gonna do anything. No, after it happened, I wish I could have done more. Like, I contemplated throwing a beer bottle down, because Enrico lives on the 3rd floor and the bar is almost directly below his house, and I contemplated throwing a bottle down, but I was afraid that I was gonna hit her too. And I just wish that I had done something. Like, in that moment of panic, I couldn't even call the police, because in that state I wouldn't have been able to explain that situation in Italian. So those were the 2 main events that directly happened to me. But that being said, I've seen domestic altercations, we'll say, multiple times in Milan. But I think what I would say in conclusion is, the thing is though, I don't know if it's an Italian thing or it's a big city thing, because I know that in USA, while I do feel safer as a woman in USA, I don't live in a big city in USA. Like, it's a city, but everybody more or less knows each other or knows of each other. It's not Milan where there are like a million people live. My number one advice would be just to not be naive. Yeah, especially when you're an American and you first come here, everybody wants to speak English with you, and everybody's so welcoming, and you think, oh my gosh, everybody in Italy is so nice. But don't be stupid, don't be naive. People will target you. People will target you because you're American. People will target you because you're a woman. And also, things happen because you're a black woman. I've heard multiple stories of black women being confused for prostitutes and being propositioned for sex. while this has never happened to me or any of my friends, female friends in Milan, I'd say it's very prevalent in the South and like bigger cities like Rome, Naples. You just have to be careful. While I do feel safer as a black person in Italy than I do in America, I do not feel safer as a woman. I've never been alone in Fano to know what it feels like to be just, you know, a woman alone in a smaller town. I don't know, for sure in Milan, I try my hardest not to be alone at night. If it can be avoided, I always go places with Enrico, and I just try never to be alone, which kind of sucks because you can't always have your friends to walk you to your house. I mean, we all don't live on the same street, and it sucks to think I need a boyfriend to go somewhere, you know? In the end, I just say, can't really compare safety in Italy and safety in USA, but I can just say in general, like, in Italy, you don't have to worry about violent crimes, you don't have to worry about being shot, you don't have to worry about being kidnapped and murdered. What I do say you have to worry about is petty crimes, being pickpocketed is really popular, being assaulted, being raped. Actually, being raped is a violent crime. I'm trying my best to cut my videos down, so of course this is probably, I've been filming for about 15 minutes, this is going to be longer, but at the same time, no matter how long it is, of course I can't summarize the whole situation on safety in Italy in a little YouTube video. So I'm opening the forum to you guys to share your experiences and your opinions on safety in this country, and I want you to leave them in the comments below to share with my other subscribers. I hope that this video was helpful to you, as always, and you learned something new. If you like this video and want to see more, be sure to like it and subscribe, and stay tuned for next time. Thanks. Mwah. Because, you know, sometimes companies don't even take the time to really package their hair and think about the, I don't know, the aesthetics of it.